Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more rifle testing, and today we've got some ammunition that several of you guys have requested to see, and I definitely wanted to try it as well, but it's been a little bit tricky actually finding it, so when I found some on the shelf the other day, I had to pick them up to see what they could actually do. But for the setup we got out here today, I brought out my Marlin 336. This one's chambered in 35 Remington. It's got a 20-inch barrel on it, and up on top is an old school Tasco 3-9x40. Definitely kind of a 80s, 90s deer rig here. Nothing fancy as far as scope goes or anything like that, but it serves the purpose for deer hunting, and that's what I use this for. So definitely a pretty nice rifle, but we'll see what it can do with today's ammunition. But as for that ammo, I picked up some of these, the Federal hammer downloads. I hardly ever see these available on the shelf, and I knew they existed, and they're definitely some interesting looking rounds, which we'll take a look at in a second, but I've never tried any of these, so we'll see how my 336 likes them. They are a 35 Remington 220 grain bullet, and on the back of the box here it does claim only 1940 feet per second. It is a 220 grain bullet, so if we can get close to that 2000 mark, that would be nice, but we've only got a 20-inch barrel, and they may have run these through a 22-inch Henry or something along that line. Either way, we'll see what they can do. But here is one of those rounds out of the box, but the bullet is the flattest nose bullet I think I've ever seen. Even on the box, it kind of shows a little section of lead up here that's flat on the tip. No, these are just like hacked off essentially. They are dead flat. You can see a little bit of lead there, but it's not a hollow point or anything. Definitely a very interesting bullet design that we've never run through my 336, including down to the bullet weight being 220, a little bit heavier, so we'll see how my 336 likes them. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the target at 100 yards, as well as the chronograph so we can get our velocity. As far as our groups, we're going to take 3 groups, 3 shots each. All of them will be at the same 100-yard distance, and I will be letting the rifle cool down between each group for 5 minutes or so, and we should be able to get a decent idea on how this performs. So let's get you guys a view of that target, take our groups, and then bring everything back here to the bench and see how they actually perform through my Marlin. I hope we get some good results, but this rifle's been a little picky with some ammo in the past, so we'll see what we can get. Alright, so let's take a quick peek through our velocities here real quick before we look at our target. The boss claim is 1940, however, we did not see that. But we do have a 20-inch barrel instead of something like a 22, like some Henrys have and stuff, so that is probably what they tested it through. So this does make sense. But for a high, we had 1902. For a low, we had 1849. That gave us an average at 1866 with an extreme spread of 53. And a standard deviation of 16. So with an average at 1866, that's 200-ish feet per second below the typical velocities we get from a 200 grain bullet. These are 220s, so you do have a little bit of extra mass to work with. So here is your energy numbers for these 220s at 1866, so you can see what we're pushing. And I guess I'm gonna have to change the battery in my chronograph, but we can take care of that. Either way, a little below their box claim. I'd like to see a little bit more out of them for velocity, but they're probably loaded a little bit softer than what a hand loader would be able to, so that is not at all surprising. But let's head over to our target and see what kind of accuracy we were able to get. Alright, so now let's take a look at our groups, because we definitely saw some very interesting results. Right off the bat, before I even measure it, I would call these very much middle of the road, and it doesn't seem like my rifle really likes or prefers these hammer down 220s, and that's kind of been the case with a lot of ammo we've tried through it. It kind of only seems to really like the Hornady 200 grain lever evolutions. With those rounds, we can easily get MOA groups all day long. But we'll actually measure these and see what we got. We'll start started in the middle with our first 3 shots, which were these 2 and this guy. Ignore this other bullet hole here for the moment, but these 3 right here, we had 2 close and then we kind of strung 1 up, and that's kind of been the case with some of the other groups here as well. But we'll measure these 3 shots and see what our first group got us. And that first group got us a 2.58 inch spread. Definitely nothing overly impressive. Good enough to put a deer steak on the table, but definitely not what I've seen as far as accuracy goes from this rifle with those Hornadies. So now we'll move up to the top left group, which was these 3 bullet holes right here. And it appears that we opened it up just a little bit, but we'll measure it and see. And yes, we did. We opened it up to 2.83. So kept it just under that 3-inch mark, but still opened it up a little bit. Still good enough to get a deer, but not anything I'd call precision, that's for sure. But now we'll move over to our third group, which with that one, we had 2 bullet holes here. And then on the third shot of the group, we had this guy over here. I felt good about that trigger pull, but considering how much of a flyer it was, I figured for the sake of you guys and for me measuring it and stuff like that, out of curiosity, I would take a third shot, and we put it right over here with the rest. So that flyer could have been me, even though I don't necessarily think it was. So I'm willing to just discredit that one for what it's worth, and we'll measure these 3 because that is our best group of the day. And in all reality, I think this is probably about as good as we're going to get from these through my particular rifle. And those 3 over there gave us a 1.55 inch group. So yeah, I think that is probably as reasonably good as we're probably going to get from my particular rifle. And of course, any of these groups would have been more than enough to take home a deer out to 100 yards. So again, it kind of comes back to these being very much so mediocre from my rifle. But that's why you test a bunch of different ammunition to see what yours likes and what it doesn't. Because I've kind of found what mine likes at this point, I think, with those Hornadies. So it's not a completely terrible job necessarily, but I was hoping to see a little bit better on average out of them, I would say. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about those results right there? I wouldn't call it anything overly impressive, but it's a kind of up close and personal, thicker woods type of combination. Out to 100 yards, any of those are going to get you a deer just fine. So in that sense, it's more than capable enough, but I know this rifle still prefers a different ammunition. But maybe I was hoping for a touch better result on average across the board. So now maybe we can run some Winchesters through it, which I have yet to do, and maybe this rifle would really like those. I don't know. We'll just have to try it and see. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is it about what you expected? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these federal hammer down rounds? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is this a combination you would hunt with? Or would you still prefer it to be a little bit more precise than that? And what other ammunition do you want to see us test through that rifle? Like I just mentioned, I've got some Winchesters we can run through it, which we haven't done yet. But if there's something else you guys might want me to try and track down, then let me know. So leave all your thoughts down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.